Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ivan Cortez. Thank you for the introduction. Genevieve, I was tasked to present to you the measures and strategies of the CLUP 2019 to 20. Um, this is the uh, proposed amendments, no? Because currently we are implementing the 2013 version of the zoning ordinance and the CLUP. So the proposed amendments and changes to the 2013 version, it will revolve around our vision. No? The proposed vision is really for Davao City to become a globally livable city and a center of excellence in governance, investment tourism, climate change adaptation, disaster resiliency, resource conservation and protection, and sustainable growth driven by empowered citizenry. So for the comprehensive land use planning, we've just finished the working draft for all the modules. No? This is including the climate and disaster risk assessment, which is under volume 4. For the scenario, I think most of you have already been presented with the studies conducted by GUHeat in Davao City. So I'll provide you some brief info on Davao. Its population is projected to double by 2045. And our temperature, no, is between 27.8, no, and expected to 30 to 30 degrees centigrade. Are said to be related to the increasing heat also. The amount of rain is also projected to increase from 494.1 millimeters to 584.44. For the proposed amendments to the CLUP and the zoning ordinance, we have agreed to have a multi-nodal concentric spatial strategy to identify growth in satellite areas, decongest the CBD, and improve the flow of goods and services. For this particular strategy, we have taken into account really the traffic congestion. I think it's high time for us to have some form of completeness in terms of the presence of goods and services within the clusters in Davao. And this is the type of strategy that we are planning to adopt once it is amended and approved. So the proposed ordinance encourages densification and diversification within growth centers and nodes to provide room for expansion within TOD and full utilization schemes of other urban areas. If I'd like to share with you the 2013 CLUP was built on the foundation that some sectors have to have a special function in the entire economic and of the city. Areas to function as institutional areas, but I think if you factor in the movement of people, because if everything else is concentrated in one area, it means you will be compelled to have more in terms of transportation. One of our strategies in combating heat is the expansion of forest and forest land. So when we did our forest land use plan in 2018, we found out that we have that based on current laws and ordinances and circular, there are areas in the city that will qualify as forest and forest land. So we are increasing this based on the existing laws, and that's already lined up for the amendments in the CLUP. So for parks and recreation, if you're looking at the screen right now, you'll see that in 2011, we have 55.6 hectares of parks designated. In the proposed CLUP, we're increasing everything up to 570.89 hectares. So this is an increase of about 73.49%. For urban green space initiatives, we're already developing existing parks in the city to have to serve as cooling areas for the city, changing the type of surface, including the introduction of more trees and greenery within the parks. This is under the Green initiative also of the current administration. Another strategy that we are proposing is increasing the green space requirement from 10 to 15%. If you're familiar with the required development of, say for example, subdivision development, in most of the LGUs in the Philippines, for a subdivision project, you'll have about 70% saleable and 30% devoted for roads, utilities, and open spaces. In Davao City, because of the 10% greening requirement, the saleable area is reduced from 70 to 60%. Now, we've seen how Singapore is aiming to have a 50% green space. And I think we need to increase because 50% is really far, 10% is really far from the 50% being aimed by other cities in the world. So we're increasing the 10% requirement to 15%. For urban ecological enhancements also, I think this is unique to Davao City in terms of how we implement our zoning ordinance, because we have designated certain areas in the urban area to be classified as an ecological enhancement area, wherein activities are limited to greening activities, mostly greening activities. At the moment, we have 224 hectares located in Shrine Hills. We're planning to expand that all the way to Langub and also Punta Dumalag. Mangrove planting shall also be pursued in our coastal barangay all the way from Turil to Bunawan. For building height limit ordinance, I think we have incorporated also greening strategies in our building height ordinance, because we've set a regular height limit for buildings and a maximum allowable height limit for buildings. When you want to breach the regular height limit all the way to the maximum allowable, you have to have greening components, or you can employ POPs or the publicly open, privately owned spaces. POPs. If you have green spaces that will be devoted for greenery or green activities, you can be allowed to go beyond the regular height limit. So that's one of the main highlights of our building height limit ordinance. And that will be incorporated in our CLUP and zoning ordinance for 2019 to 2028. We've conducted an infrastructure modernization study together with JICA, and these are some of the results that is related to combating urban heat island effect in the city. Number one is the HPBS, the high priority bus system. And this is envisioned to replace all the jeepneys in Davao City. From over 7,000 jeepneys, we're replacing them by about 1,000 buses flying all the routes in Davao City. So I think this will drastically lower our consumption of fossil fuels. And then we have the Davao River Protection Development. The waste to energy facility is also being pursued together with the Japanese government. And we're improving our road network to decongest traffic and to provide alternative routes to people. Sidewalk standardization is part of the strategy also. These are some of the plans that we have already finished: the local climate change action plan, the forest land use plan, and the Davao City Transport Road Plan, all aiming at providing a better urban solutions in the city. So that's all. That's my presentation. Thank you very much.